so thank you everybody for enduring listening to me as I one way slam you with information again. I know it's not always the most ideal option, but for this session, that's the way that we can do it at the moment. But now we have this wonderful opportunity to hear our mentors' opinions and thoughts and comments around these topics. And again, in this particular section, we'll focus on the questions being of a fairly generic nature. So I'll pose some questions, but if you have questions, we'd love to hear you, raise them. If they're quite generic, if they're more specific to you, then hold those over for when you have your private one-on-one conversation, and you can then dig into, the specifics for your business. So to start with though, we will meet our mentors, and I'll just mention what I'll do in a moment is actually take the slide share away just so we actually see our mentors. So mentors, if you're able to not have yourself on hidden video, and I think you're all visible to me now, which is wonderful. So today we've got Paul Hodgson from MIRA, and we've got Gary Elks from USQ, and we've got Lisa Clark from RetroHex, and Sam from Sam from METS Ignited has also just dropped in and joined us. I'm not sure how long you can stay, Sam, but you can let us know in a minute. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, which means that all of my little things will change places. There we go, and now I can see you all, and hopefully you can see our speaker in a bigger box depending on how you've got your screen set up. So let's start with Paul. Let's hear who you are and where you're from, and tell us why we've chosen you to come be one of our mentors. How awesome are you?
I don't know why you chose me, Joy, but hopefully that'll become apparent over the course of the next couple of hours. But my name's Paul Hodgson. I'm General Manager Innovation and Stakeholder Engagement for MIRA, based on the East Coast. So based in Brisbane, look after the 80% of the population of Australia. But so we're one of the industry growth centres. METS Ignited, obviously you'd be well aware of, is the one in the mining equipment technology and services space. We're the one that looks after oil, gas and energy resources nationally. I've got a busy agenda, but I've got a background that includes starting my own business, working for PricewaterhouseCoopers as a business advisor, an earlier period working in government in departments in Canberra and in Brisbane, working for a couple of ministers, a skills agency, economic development manager for Ipswich City, etc. So happy to share. And then running a business advisory services as well for small and medium enterprises and the like. So happy to draw on all of that experience this morning.
Wonderful, and that is why you're here with us, because
there we go. Thanks, John.
a broad amount of experience across different things, and I will just mention, when we're looking at mentors to have involved, we do obviously put a lot of consideration into who we invite to be on our mentor panels, and particularly look for those who do have the experience both from an industry perspective, but also from their own business perspective, just to let you know we do that as much as we can. So yeah, really appreciate you giving your time, Paul, and for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Gary, I know we heard from you a tiny little bit earlier, but just for those who've maybe dropped in since then, just another intro from yourself, thanks.
Yeah, hi, I'm Gary Elks from USQ. I've been at USQ for about 3 years, working with construction and civil engineering. My background is about 35 years in the construction industry, which probably makes me fairly old. And also about 23 or 24 years of that, I had my own businesses. And mostly I started those businesses myself, so built them up and sold them. Interspersed with that was I've been involved with developing building systems from concepts right through to commercialisation, and there's been a couple of really successful building systems, and I'm still involved in that, and I find that very exciting, and I'm enjoying working in this space with you guys, and Joy, you do a great job with your presentations. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary. And yeah, really grateful to have you here. Excuse me, my throat just isn't going to play with me today. All right. And Lisa, I'll just jump straight to you. Sorry.
Yes, I definitely concur. Joy always does an amazing job at running these workshops, and I love being involved with anything that Joy and David do. So I'm Lisa. I have my own business called RetroHex. So I help startups and small businesses get online through graphic design, web design, hosting, and creating brands. I also am a co-founder of a digital marketing group where we help small businesses learn digital marketing skills. They can't afford a digital marketing agency, so we actually train them to do it themselves. So that's an online supportive group. And recently, because I love getting involved in startup weekends, I've attended 7 startup weekends and participated in all of those 7. I joined a team and we are working on recycling plastic and turning it into 3D printing filament. So we're in the very, very, very early stages, so I can definitely understand what you guys are all going through in the trial and error with starting up a business. So yeah, my expertise is definitely branding and helping businesses get online. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. And
and I'm a female, so I add a bit of diversity.
That's all right. I haven't got Abby here this week, unfortunately. Usually I have Abby in the last few weeks, one of our participants, but Ben is here today. We're grateful that you're here, Ben, but we do miss Abby as well for the diversity side. But thanks, Lisa. It's great to have you here. And again, we appreciate all that you do for us here at Canvas and being involved in programs like this as well. And Sam, because you arrived just at the right time, we'll get a little intro from you. Thank you very much.
Hey, g'day, I'm Sam Whitehill. I'm from METS Ignited. I'm a project manager, and Paul gave you a bit of an intro around the growth centres. METS Ignited and MIRA work together on a lot of different activities around trying to help companies in the mining, METS, oil, gas and energy sectors. And these accelerators are one of the programs that we run, and we've got 5 of these in Queensland this year in different regional centres. And as a few people have said, Joy and David are some of the best at facilitation and delivery of content. So it's great to be a part of watching that unfold, and certainly say to all those people participating, you're lucky you've got these guys, because they're some of the best you can get. In terms of my background, well, the relevant bits of my background is really around having run these for a couple of years now and other different programs. We see a lot of METS companies that have got amazing technical abilities, and this week's content's particularly relevant because we also see a lot of amazingly technically capable METS companies who have terrible or non-existent marketing, branding, and public-facing positions. So we're very keen to try and help as many METS companies as we can to build those skills and those capabilities to better sell what they do and why, and to who, and in what format is best for them. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to listening and learning myself, and hopefully taking what we can get out of this fantastic program and passing it on to the other operators so they can deliver the same A-class content. Is that right, Joy?
Absolutely. Happy to share with the world. Thanks, Sam, and thanks for joining us. Are you able to stick around for a little while today?
Yep, absolutely. I'm here till the end.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you. Alrighty, so I am keen to expand obviously on our topics around brand and marketing and communications today. And we've got a question that has been posed by one of our participants as well. So I might actually start there because I think it's a really good thing to consider. So for all of our mentors, I'll just get you to absorb this for a moment. So obviously when we're in the early stages of starting a business, we often have to wear many hats, and we might be the marketer as well as other, our technical abilities. We get to the point though with our business where it may grow and we get sufficient resources to actually then be able to hire someone to help us with our sharing our message and creating marketing materials and content and developing our brand. But obviously we've not necessarily done that before, hired someone for that particular role, and marketing itself may not be anything that we're really familiar with. So are there some ways where you can, I guess, help select the right person at the beginning to either guide you on that journey or, be on that journey with you in developing your brand and your content, so that we don't either get swindled or end up with a poor brand. So what are some of the things that we need to be aware of when we're looking to actually start to engage a contractor into our organisation to do that? So, so Gary, I might actually start with you if that's okay, because we know that you've run some businesses in the past. I'm not sure if you've had that opportunity to engage someone in your brand development, but we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. Not so much brand development, but I found it a bit. I wasn't particularly good at recruiting people. Well, I had mixed success, put it that way. Some good, some weren't. But probably the most success I had was when I went through a recruitment agent, and they came with I think it was a 6-month guarantee. So it cost extra money, but it was the start. If you get the wrong person on, and there is a chance of that, a reasonable chance in a small business, it's going to cost you a lot more money than getting the right person and paying the extra $6,000, whatever it is, through a recruitment agent. And that would apply for a branding professional. I think branding that would quite often be outsourced with a small business. So marketing and sales, some people get them mixed up. You're talking about marketing, Joy, are you?
Marketing primarily, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So the sort of, I guess, the overarching, how we're going to penetrate the market. Yes.
That's okay. I think that's a really good point that you make. So, hiring is challenging as well in any, like, hiring anyone to enter your business. So engaging someone who's a professional in that and paying what it costs to get them to help find the right person can be a really good point. So thank you. Lisa, I might jump to you on the same question, because obviously people hire you to help them develop their brand and create their marketing, part of their marketing strategy, maybe not the materials necessarily, but to put that together. So I guess, what do you think people look for in you that might help other people if they're looking around?
I think when you're starting the process of looking for someone, obviously with brand and marketing, you would be outsourcing when you're starting out. So you wouldn't really be able to afford a full-time employee to do that, maybe when you're a bit bigger. But I would recommend meeting with them via Zoom or in person for an hour, a chat, to get to know their personality. They can show you their portfolio. They can talk about their process. So I'm very transparent with my process and every step that I go through. Also making sure that they have project proposals, their scope and their deliverables, their fees. So get those all up front as well before you dive into anything. I know a lot of designers do have contracts, so if they're doing ongoing work, especially if they're doing web design and web hosting, so they'll expect you to sign on for a 2-year contract. I don't do that. If I don't deliver the work, I'm happy for you to leave me, so I don't have any lock-in contracts. So just looking at those sort of things when you're working with someone. And I think a lot of the time it really is personality. So a lot of people won't like my personality, so they'll go to find someone else, or they might not like the work that I've done previously. So I think connecting with them and just starting to build that relationship. Also, word of mouth is really important. So a lot of my clientele come just purely through word of mouth.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. And I think that's a really good point, that there'll be people out there who suit your personality, but also have experience perhaps in your industry or the style that you like and how that matches your brand. If it feels good, is often a good place to start, where if it doesn't feel good, just move on quite quickly is good. Paul, did you have anything you wanted to add on that point? Have you got some experience there in engaging a contractor or a consultant to help with your marketing in the past?
Yeah, well, lots, and I'll only pick a couple of things because it takes me back to when I started my business back in probably about 15 years ago now. But I think, absolutely agree with everything Gary and Lisa said. And I think the key thing is actually with the market, brand is an asset, right? So you're building an asset. So you're looking for something. So don't just think your product or your app or whatever your service is the asset. The brand is the asset, and it could be the most valuable brand, the most valuable asset. So you've got to approach it that way. And so you want to find someone who respects that, will ask the right questions, and will actually grow with you. So the right person. You'll have people that say, hey, look, and they'll think it's impressive. They'll say, look, we'll help you with your branding. We work with Rio Tinto. We work with the Queensland government. We work with, Origin Energy. That's probably not the person for you. Their pricing, their strategy, their approach is not going to be the right one. And also just avoid working with people who see it as a transaction. I would work with the person that would say, look, here, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could do in branding, but actually, what have you got so far? What's the essence of your brand? What are you trying to achieve? What's the goal of the business? How far are you along? Maybe I could actually help you for a couple of hours to get this up. Maybe we could sketch something out. Maybe we could, and you could iterate it back and forth and work together on it, build your capability, have smaller, perhaps regular billing, and not just have one big chunk kind of where you outsource something and pay 10 grand to someone to come up with a logo, which probably is not going to be a good use of your money at this stage, depending on your budget. So I think you're building a relationship, you're building a long-term asset, and that relationship also becomes an asset for your business as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Paul. That's some really good points. And I think, yeah, definitely relationship in everything goes a long way. And as we mentioned a little earlier on, definitely brand is an asset for your business and something you want to be building intentionally. Gary, you had something else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, just good point Lisa raised. Word of mouth is the best. It's probably the best way to find people. So you can talk. You can talk to others about those people. So if they come as a recommendation and they match your business, that's a great way to find people. And the other, I guess, warning is some people. I had a guy who I put him on. He learned everything about my business, and then he set up as a competitor, and it sort of just. He contacted all my suppliers, all my customers, and he tried to set up and beat me at what I was doing. And it just flared up and fizzled out as I thought it would, but it was really annoying. And probably some sort of protection, like a non-disclosure document or something, no matter who it is, they all start out nice, but it's good to have that sort of protection. Even if you don't have secrets, you don't want people pinching your customers and your suppliers, and it sort of is bad blood with the people you deal with if you get someone doing that.
Definitely, and I think that extends back to our conversation from last week around intellectual property and all of your contracts, and setting yourself up right from the beginning to make sure you know where everything sits, where the ownership sits, where the obligation and responsibilities sit, is also important. And if you're bringing someone on to help with your marketing, what does that look like, and what is that relationship, and how does that work? So that's good. So just a question. I'm going to go to brand and the fact that that brand is an asset and it requires building. Paul, I'm keen to know from your experience in the businesses that you've created in the past, and even with MIRA as well. What are some of the things that you found most beneficial to help actually develop the brand to represent what you want it to stand for?
It's I find it a challenging exercise, because really for a lot of founders, you'll be your brand before your product or your service, right? And branding is in pretty much everything, every engagement, every relationship that you're doing is actually your brand. You set a brand promise, but you actually, whether you fulfill that depends on how easy you are to deal with, how good your products and services are, just really simple stuff around it. And I think that's really, really key. When I set out to build something which was bigger than me, which I probably never realized. So I failed that experiment, but I set up something called Sustainnovation, which was sustainability and innovation. It seemed really cute at the time, but I can tell you as a domain name, and actually the number of times I had to spell my email address. No, it's two N's. No, only one I. It was like So, you know, so all those things are really quite important. The first time I did it, I did my own branding. I still shudder when I look at the branding, but it was fit for purpose, right? It was early on. And then I did a major rebrand before I got a long-term full-time contract to run a business advisory service for the federal government. And so I never really realized it, but the difference was phenomenal. So you should invest as much in your brand as you do in your product and your service. It's so critical as an asset for the business.
Wonderful, thanks, Paul. And I think a point you just made throughout that was takes me back to a little quote, and I can't remember exactly who said it, but something around the lines of, you know, if you're not embarrassed by your first, you know, logo or website or something, you know, you've launched too late. Just get it out there, do something, and let it evolve, and see how people respond to it. But then, you know, when you know who you are, then maybe it's time to actually rebrand and define that. So,
yeah, and sorry, Joy, could I just add there? I think it's really important that you realize and you're comfortable with the fact, and you make people feel comfortable with the fact you're not a fully formed business. You're not trying to be Origin Energy. You're not trying to even be Russell Mineral Equipment or something else. You're a startup, right? That you can use the market, you can use your engagements to get feedback, and that's fantastic for building relationships, as well as getting fantastic insights to build your brand, as well as your products and services.
Yeah, no, great point. And it's interesting on some of those, and Shell is a really good example, where you see Shell, this huge brand, and you look back to what was their first logo, and it was this little like hand sketch sort of, you know, yep, Shell off the beach sort of thing, but it evolved. So Lisa, I know you're part of that journey with a lot of people where they've started something and then they come to you and they're wanting to, let's say, rebrand or raise the level of their brand a little, to be a bit more professional. What are some of the things that you talk to people about to get them to, you know, I guess, help you create something for them? So how do you go about that conversation?
Yeah, sure. So when businesses come to me, I always ask them about their value proposition and their target market. So I give them a design brief, and they have to fill that out for me, just so I can really start to understand what their business does, why they do it, who they're targeting. And also I get them to express that in words. So I ask them for 10 words that describe them or what their business, they want their business to represent. I also then go through a process of helping them discover designs that they like. So we use something called Pinterest, which you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with, and we start creating a Pinterest board. So looking at their competitors, their people in their industry, other brands that their customer follows. So it's really important to know who your customer is, so you can see what other brands those customer follows. It might not be in the same industry, but it might be, you know, what sort of fashion are they wearing? You know, what devices do they use? Are they using Apples? Are they Android users? And to look across all those sorts of brands to get some inspiration around that. I think Paul made a really good point. When you're starting out, I have businesses come to me who don't have a customer yet, or don't know who their target market is. And I always tell them to go away and work that out. I've often handed them off to Joy so that Joy can help them figure that out before they come to me, because I really want them to understand what that is. And it makes my job a lot easier as well when creating a brand for them.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Lisa. And yeah, I think it's definitely one of the reasons why we like engaging with you, is that it's not just about, oh yeah, I can, you know, create some random thing for this person who doesn't know what they are, let alone how can I possibly know what they're wanting to represent. So again, one of the reasons why you're here with us today. So that's really good. I think there was just a question in the chat. So just, okay, the difference between a brand and a brand identity. So anyone who wants to jump in on that to answer the difference between a brand and a brand identity?
Yeah, sure. So a brand really is, I like to think of a brand as the two V's. I should probably trademark this actually. So voice brand and visual brand. So voice is everything you read and hear and you say, and your visuals is everything you see. So your logo, typography, colors, imagery. Your brand identity is everything. So it encapsulates everything from sensors to, yeah, it just encapsulates everything. So the visuals and the voice you can actually create, but the identity is the larger picture around that.
So I think culture and that comes into it as well then, doesn't it? Like, again, what type of
values, culture, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Awesome. So I've got a question then around marketing, and this is something that I know, and you know, Sam mentioned it as well, that sometimes what we see an organisation representing themselves as is one thing, but the materials that they produce or the advertisements or the content that they create in some industries is a little lackluster, so it maybe isn't engaging. And when we're thinking about, you know, this sector in particular, where you see the, I guess, either the current or where it's moving to in terms of, if you've only got so many dollars to spend and you're going to put it into marketing, where do you think it's worth putting it for the METS sector? So anyone, so Paul or Gary, you guys might want to jump in on this one, or Sam, if you've got something you wanted to add, or even, sorry, we've got Melissa with us as well. I can't see your picture, Melissa, so sorry, I didn't mention you there, but Melissa from Department of State Development is with us as well. So anyone who wants to jump in on that, where do you think these guys should be really looking from the marketing perspective?
I'll go first, Joy, and I think it's probably less about the money to start with, and it's actually, I think Lisa made a really excellent point. I mean, it's really understand who's your target market, who actually is your audience, and where is your audience? You know, go and find them. And so I do this all the time. So the question is where is the audience? Who is your audience? And it's amazing how many people can't actually almost put together who their sweet spot target customer would be. They'll give, like, we want to sell into the mining industry. Okay, well, what are you talking? Are you talking, you know, which part of the mining industry? Is it a particular, is it hard rock mining? Is it coal mining? Is it in Australia? Is it, you know, so there's a whole bunch of, so you get into that, you know, the place, the people, you know, really understanding the marketing proposition, and then it becomes clearer, I think, where you put the money. And it could be joining an industry association. It could be going to some seminars. It could be just having some one-on-ones with some key people in the industry. It might be, and then, you know, going back to the visual and the like. I mean, there's too many, and this is why you would select someone like Lisa, right? Because there will be some marketing consultants and branding consultants who would actually say, well, you need an Instagram account, and you need, we need to do this and we need to do that, without actually even knowing whether there's anyone on Instagram. So if you're in business to business, for example, and particularly in the industrial sector, you probably don't need a Facebook page. Lisa might have a different view on that, but I would go, you wouldn't go that. You'd look for where's the trade magazines, where are the trade sites, what are the industry associations, where are these people congregating? They may be congregating at the local sporting club, right? So maybe that's part of your marketing angle, because the people that are going to be your buyers are going to be at the sporting club on a Friday night watching the local team or something, or whatever it is. But you need to it needs to be strategic, not just things you could do to get your brand out there.
Yeah, great point. And I'm definitely a fan of marketing in person is still one of the best things that produce results. If it's, you know, for a pint of beer or a good meal or something with somebody after the networking event or after the conference of the day, and then you go out for dinner afterward, that's where often those best relationships are built that result in something that goes forward. Did anyone else want to add to that, where you think in this sector? Yeah.
Sure. So I'm on every platform imaginable, and obviously help businesses get onto different platforms. And I always try and recommend that they start with 2 platforms because it's really hard to be across every platform. And I definitely agree with Paul. I wouldn't be on Facebook for the mining industry. I would be on Twitter and LinkedIn because you generally are going to be able to get in front of those industries, the tech industries, the mining industries, the ag industries. They're all on Twitter. and coming across to LinkedIn a lot more. Also, with my little plastic recycling, it's really interesting networking and marketing in that, because it's similar to the mining industry, but I put it in the sustainability industry. And so I've connected a lot better on platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, and getting in front of policymakers, in front of government. They seem to be the platforms that work really well. And like Joy said, I think the best form of marketing is networking and actually getting out there. So attending as many industry related events as possible, so people can just start to connect with you and understand what you do. Get
Wonderful.
your brand awareness.
Thanks, Lisa. And Sam, I think you've probably got an opinion here. You probably deal with a lot of people across the sector, both online and in person. So any suggestions of where you get being valuable?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything everyone said. And one other thing that tweaks in my mind is that you do have, it's horses for courses, of course, but if you're dealing with a medium or larger size customer, they're going to have multiple layers of decision makers. And you need to promote your content in a variety of different ways. And one way is the technical side. So you've got people on site or product experts who will know the value of what you're selling. And they'll say, yes, we want to buy your product. I've just got to get this through procurement, credit, legal, all those other different layers. And all of those other layers, they don't understand the value of your product. And they're never going to understand those technicalities. They need to be educated at a simpler level or a higher level, however you want to describe it. So, it's not easy to do, but it's necessary that you develop a content and a forward-facing material that is technically excellent, but you then also need to have some simpler, more basic messages around who you are, your capabilities, what you've done in the past, what you're doing now, what's your future direction. You need that broader communication base so that people from those less informed areas of a business can go online very quickly and see who you are and what you are, so they can have some confidence when they go into those procurement meetings. There's a lot of people, might have on-site, yes, we're going to buy your product, the site manager loves you, and then they go to the procurement meeting and people will say, well, I can't even find these guys online, or what I found there was from 2007. Or, these guys don't even say they do water filtration. Why are we buying a water filtration system off them? Oh, well, they've been doing that for the last 3 years, but they just haven't updated their website. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds basic, but there's multiple audiences you need to be selling to in the battle to get procurement with medium to larger organisations.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, just in addition to what Sam's saying, it's so important to not waste your time on the wrong people. And so you need to be quite targeted. You can feel like you're really making some headway and then I'm not getting orders. It's because those people are interested, but they're not decision makers. So you need to be talking to the right people and get feedback from that. When you're talking to them. How does the ordering work? Who are the decision makers? So you're not going to be wasting your time. Your time in a small business is your most valuable asset. You need to use it wisely.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with that more. And on that point, so Hensley actually raised a question as well. So a lot of us try and follow that 80-20 rule of making sure, often 80% of our business will come from 20% of our customers. But when we're looking at that, are there two things, and I think obviously networking probably has come out through the conversations we've just had, but maybe two things that you think businesses need to do to give them the most bang for buck in their marketing. So, is it video? Are people watching video? Is it producing, technical booklets? Is it, what do you see as being the things that if you can only have time and money for two of them, what do you think this sector is probably most likely to engage in? So Paul, you might have, I guess,
I think it's probably following on Sam's raised some really excellent points there. I think around I would be investing my time in understanding who the buyers are and who my target audience is and connecting with them. And I agree with Lisa. I mean, LinkedIn, I've used LinkedIn since 1996 2006 in my own business, in every organization since. And don't be shy, make contact with people, but do it in a way that isn't pitchy, right? You're not just trying to sell. So make those relationships, ask them questions, say you're really interested in insights on, and they're like, and people are willing to help. And then the important thing is where you spend the money then is when they go, oh, well, let me go and just look them. I'm really a bit intrigued now. I'm going to go and have a look, and I'm going to Google them and see what I find, right? So that's where you invest your money. So you invest your money in making sure your website's up to date. It doesn't have to be the all singing, all dancing, but make it fresh. Make sure that there's something which hasn't got the last update was, 3-4 years ago, or something else. Make it look professional, even if it's just a few pages. It doesn't have to be huge. And then also just, I think it's occasional. It sounds a bit narcissistic, but actually, what are people saying about you, and where are you linked? If they put in your name and your company, and it's something, the top hit is something else that's got nothing to do with, as you say, what you're trying to do now because you pivoted. You got to be mindful of that, so that you're wearing. So I would invest in the relationships, and then from a money perspective, I'd just make sure that when people then go to, oh, I'm interested in finding out what Ben does. When they go and have a look, what do they find? Make sure that reinforces the messages that you've made in the online contact.
Wonderful, thanks, Paul. And when I run this session in a face-to-face, context where we've got a bit more time, the Google yourself and see what comes up, and have someone else Google you and see what they find, is actually a thing that we do. And then what, random pictures from somewhere else need to be removed from the internet, as well as, any stories that you might be sharing. So that's probably just a good point as well. In terms of personal brand, are you actually communicating the things that make you recognised and an authority in your sector? And even if you're in the early stages, and I know, Trent, we've had this conversation before around, you might be looking to enter into a sector that maybe you don't play in fully at the moment. You've got an organisation running, you're operating over here, you're known over here, but you're wanting to start to move and transition into something that's new. Write about it, share about it, find articles and share them. Start discussions on those things in that virtual space, so people can go, oh, this guy's interested in this stuff that I'm also interested in. Maybe I should connect with him and have a conversation. It might not even be what you're doing yet, but they acknowledge that that's an area that you're interested in. And then certainly if you are an authority and you're able to, produce content that shows that can be really beneficial as well. All right, so I'm keen to know as well your thoughts of our mentors in terms of pitching, and what you've seen or heard or experienced in preparing a pitch, pitching, and then what to do after you've pitched. So Gary, I might start with you. I'm just keen to know your experience. Have you had to pitch in the past? And if you did, what was the experience like? And any lesson or key thing that you might be able to share with others to help them as they prepare over the next couple of weeks to pitch at our demo day?
Yeah, sure. Probably 25 years ago, I would have been terrified to stand in front of a group of people and do a pitch. So I thought I had to get better at this. I actually joined Toastmasters, and they teach you how to do a pitch, and it's so good. I learned a lot from that, and so I became good at pitching, but just the verbal pitch is only a little bit effective. You really need to have some backup visuals, and that's why what Joy was talking about with the PowerPoint presentation is so important. It probably makes your pitch 4 or 5 times more impactful, and you need to keep in mind this is about them, not about you. So what's in it for them? You need to really convey that clearly, and maybe you need to talk about the size of the market, what it'll mean to them. Put some numbers in that look really good, which are not a guarantee, it's just a proposal. So really make it impactful with the slideshow presentation, and your pitch needs to be snappy as well. And don't make it drag on too long.
Great.
That's probably
yes.
what was the other thing I wanted to say? That's probably enough for now. Thank you.
That's all right. Well, if you think of it, throw it in later anyway. But yeah, some great points there. I totally agree. Lisa, I know you've had some experience pitching in the past. Do you want to share your tips on preparing and also
sure.
post-pitching? I'm keen to know
Post-pitching, okay.
Yeah, after the pitch, what do you do?
After the pitch, what I do? Okay, well, I can like go and attend as many startup weekends as possible so you can practice your pitch. That's a good one. No, but I think storytelling is key. So how, like, really explain your problem using a story and really explain your solution using a story. If you can get your problem and solution across, you'll be fine. Especially if you're talking to an audience that may not understand your industry, which a lot of you guys, a lot of the stuff you do, I have no idea, like it goes above my head. I don't know what you're talking about at all. So trying to explain the problem as if you're talking to a 7-year-old would be good for me. After the pitch, and also the visuals of a slide deck is really important. So keep it really, really simple. Like Joy said, don't have lots of words on there, and just keep it consistent with your brand as well. And on the brand, my son, who was 10, created our Tops Off logo, so it doesn't need to be fancy to begin with. And then after the pitch, do you mean, like, what do you, like, do you reiterate the pitch? Do you keep working on the pitch? What were you after there, Joy?
No, more if you've pitched and then, you know, you have the opportunity to talk to people that might be somewhat interested. What do you do?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I just connect with them. So my key to any sort of marketing is listening. So Joy was asking, what are the 2 things you should be doing on your social media platforms to get in front of people? You need to be engaging with people's posts, so commenting, and then they will actually go and look at who you are and definitely connect. That's where a lot of my connections come through, engagement. So after your pitch, get engaged, listen to what people's problems are, listen to what they're doing in their industry, and start to build that relationship with them.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Good points there as well. I think listening is definitely a skill that many of us have to develop actively. David, you've got your hand up. You wanted to add something in there? Oh, you might be on mute, I think. Oh, perhaps the other device. Can't hear you at the moment, so perhaps if you want to just work that out. Paul, did you have anything you wanted to add there as well, pitching?
Yeah, I think it just, again, it comes back to the audience, and there's a time and a place for pitching. So don't use it as a crutch. A lot of, you know, pitching is done a lot in the startup communities, and it's often really about investors. Pitching for customers isn't necessarily the way I would ever pitch at a customer. It's a conversation, and it's as you know, it's really about understanding their needs as much as your own. And so I've done a lot of work with the Trusted Advisor, which is a David Meister book, and his trust equation is really interesting, and I've used it in all my businesses and engagements since, which is trust equals credibility plus reliability plus intimacy, divided by the degree of your self-orientation. And so a lot of pitches to me often come across as very one way. And so it's really important, and that'll leave customers cold unless you're in a particular pitching situation that they're expecting. So working on intimacy, which is something we don't talk about a lot in business, but also the degree of self-orientation. I'll leave just a small thing. There's a fantastic guy that does this in Brisbane called Keith Dugdale that does this globally. He runs something called the Business of Trust. And he works with global teams in particularly services. But one of the key things he came up with was I, we, you. So in every interaction, you want to provide value in every interaction. So think about that, and it's a really great step. Even if it's a LinkedIn, an email, or whether it's a phone call, or whether it's a meeting, if you think about it and go, what am I going to be providing of value to the other person? And if you're not clear, don't have the meeting, don't have the call, don't send the message. There has to be something you're providing. It's an article, it's an insight, it's something you think they might find interesting. So I think that's a really good thing. It's just every interaction you're looking to add value.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Paul. And yeah, always important to not just have a meeting or a conversation for the sake of it. So yeah, definitely. David, have you been able to sort out your sound? No, I don't think so.
Okay, what about now?
Oh, we can hear you twice, but yep, there we go.
Yeah, just that should be better.
Yep,
So, just check. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, jolly good. Okay, so I wanted to, I put my hand up a little while back. Just wanted to, so I'll have to cycle back. And that was to that point, Joy, that you brought up about the, when you look at what you're putting out there is completely different to what other people see online. And so having it comes down to, I suppose, you get a lot of bias as a founder, as the person that creates all the content and puts it out there, and that all you see is all the stuff that you're putting out there. So you think you're doing an absolutely amazing job, and you're reaching everybody, and it just looks so great. But yeah, really make sure that you get to see what you look like from that opposing lens, where your computer is not full of all the cookies that you've created that makes you see everything first, because Google thinks you want to see yourself first, and Twitter wants to show you, and Facebook wants to show you everything first. So yeah, cycle back around and really have a good look at that. Sorry, I know that was a little while back, but yeah, I just wanted to really push that. Otherwise we get bias on what we see.
Yeah, great point. Thanks for that, David. And that's where it's handy if you've got someone who you know doesn't follow you, get them to do a Google search on you fresh and see what pops up, or on the topic that you might be looking for, if there's keywords that you want to search, and see what that might be.